It started with a whisper. A ghost story told in the dark corners of the galaxy. The name of the species was forbidden in some sectors, an unspoken terror in others. The dominion of Krell, the Vashar consensus, the unified clans of Vortha, all the great empires, each ruling hundreds of star systems, shared one silent agreement. Do not engage the humans. Not because they were numerous. They weren't. Not because they were technologically superior. They weren't. But because humans had something else. Rage. It was a cargo freighter, the Prospector, that started it. A simple distress signal. Standard protocol. A Vraxian raiding ship intercepted it, as they had done to thousands of other species. The Vraxians were a warlike race, towering, armored, with centuries of conquest behind them. When they boarded, they found the humans waiting. Not pleading. Not surrendering. Waiting. The airlock opened, and the Vraxian warlord stepped inside. He had his plasma rifle raised. His soldiers had their shock whips primed. Then the humans attacked. Not with weapons. With their hands. They broke through the armored bodies of the Vraxians with sheer, unrelenting force. They ripped out breathing tubes. They bit through their enemies' exoskeletons, using their own shattered bones as makeshift weapons. When the Vraxian warlord realized what was happening, he ordered a retreat. But the humans didn't stop. They followed. They didn't just kill. They hunted. By the time the Vraxian fleet arrived, there was no Prospector. Only a floating Vraxian warship, its walls painted with the blood of its former crew. The humans had taken it. That was the first story. The second came from the Craggery, an empire of steel and cybernetics. They thought they could wipe out a human colony by poisoning the atmosphere. But humans didn't die as expected. They adapted. Their bodies fought the toxins. Their children were born immune. When the Craggery returned to claim the planet, they found human soldiers waiting for them. Those same humans, who should have been wiped out, had turned the toxins into weapons. They flooded the Craggery ships with the very gas meant to kill them. The humans walked through the choking fog unscathed, watching as the Craggery choked on their own arrogance. By the time the galaxy realized what was happening, it was too late. Humans didn't conquer with fleets. They didn't expand with diplomacy. They spread through survival. They lived where no one else could. They thrived where others withered. And when the war finally came, when the united species of the galaxy tried to purge Earth, humanity did what no one thought possible. They laughed. Because war wasn't terror for them. It wasn't devastation. It was home. The attack on Earth was supposed to be the end of them. A coalition of the greatest military forces in the galaxy, 12 armadas, 3 billion soldiers, weapons capable of turning planets into dust. They didn't just want to win. They wanted to erase humanity from existence. The assault began with orbital bombardment. Massive ion cannons lit up the skies, nuclear payloads rained down, and bioweapon clouds rolled over cities like creeping death. And yet, the humans didn't fall. The bombardment should have turned Earth into a wasteland. Instead, the humans adapted. They had bunkers deeper than anyone imagined, hidden beneath layers of rock no scanner could penetrate. They had countermeasures already in place, hijacking enemy signals, disrupting communications, using the coalition's own technology against them. And when the invaders finally landed, the real nightmare began. They came in armor. Humans came in rage. The Craggery shock troops moved in first, clad in exosuits that could withstand artillery fire. They were designed to instill fear. But humans didn't fear them. They waited until the Craggery reached the ruins of what had been New York. Then the tunnels opened. Thousands of humans poured from the ground like demons from the abyss. Some were armed with plasma rifles, but most had steel, blades, in their bare hands. The Craggery fell in minutes. Not because they were weak, but because humans didn't break. One human, with a missing arm, picked up a fallen Craggery's weapon and kept fighting. Another, with his intestines spilling out, laughed as he dragged an enemy into a fire pit. The battle footage was banned from coalition networks. No one wanted to see what humans did to their enemies. By the time the second wave landed, the first was already gone. It wasn't their guns. It wasn't their ships. It was their will. When the Krell shock troops advanced, humans set themselves on fire just to get close enough to kill. When the VHR generals deployed bioagents, humans inhaled the plague, let it mutate in their bodies, and weaponized their own blood. When the Vortha sent their best warriors, humans fought with broken bones, severed limbs, and smiles on their faces. The battle lasted 6 years. By the end, the coalition's forces had been reduced to ashes. Their fleets were in ruins. The last Krell admiral, upon realizing the war was lost, ordered his fleet to retreat. They never made it home. Humans followed them back. They didn't just stop at Earth's defense. They invaded. They took coalition worlds. They hunted down every single species that had come for them. Not to conquer. To remind the galaxy why humans were feared. A decade later, a single distress signal was intercepted from deep space. A Vraxian cargo vessel, drifting near the edge of the galaxy, had picked up something. A message. It wasn't in their language. It wasn't in any known dialect. It was a voice. Low. Calm. Human. You started this war. We will finish it. The signal ended. But the fear never did. They called it the culling. The great empires, the Krell Dominion, the VHR Consensus, the unified Vortha clans, were once the rulers of the galaxy. They had carved their legacies into the stars, conquering weaker species, consuming planets, expanding without restraint. Until they made one mistake. They attacked humanity. The war was over. But the killing had just begun. The Krell homeworld, Vorkesh, had been untouchable for thousands of years. A fortress planet wrapped in asteroid defenses, automated battle stations, and fleets numbering in the thousands. No one had ever breached its defenses. Until the humans arrived. They came in a single stolen Vraxian warship. The Krell laughed when they saw it. One ship against an armada? A foolish act. Then the warship detonated itself in high orbit. The Krell sensors went blind. Their planetary defense grid crashed. Their fleet, left scrambling, tried to react. But by the time they restored communications, it was already too late. Because the humans were already on the ground. They didn't arrive in shuttles. They didn't descend in drop pods. They jumped. From low orbit, wrapped in heat-resistant armor, they fell from the sky like demons. They crashed through Krell strongholds, through fortified bunkers. They ripped through defenses like a plague of living weapons. One Krell commander, in his last moments, screamed into the planetary distress channel. They're not here to conquer. They're here to erase US. No one received the message. Because by dawn, there were no more Krell left to hear it. The VHR Consensus had seen what happened to the Krell. They knew what was coming. They fled. Not just their military. Their entire species abandoned their planets, launching massive world ships into deep space, hoping to outrun the humans. They ran for 10 years. 10 years of jumping from system to system, never staying too long, never leaving a trace. But somehow, the humans found them. One by one, their world ships went dark. No explosions. No debris fields. No signs of battle. Just silence. 1,000 ships left. By the time the last distress call was sent, only one remained. A lone VHR captain, his voice barely a whisper. "We don't know how they found us, we don't know how they got aboard, but if you're hearing this, we were wrong, we were so wrong." Transmission ends. The VHR consensus no longer exists. It has been 20 years since the war began. The once great empires of the galaxy now speak in hushed tones, in shadowed corners, whispering the same question. Where are the humans? They don't colonize. They don't trade. They don't negotiate. They wait. And when a species grows too bold, when a fleet becomes too powerful, when a warlord rises with dreams of conquest, the humans return. Not with fleets. Not with demands. With fire. No one sees them coming. No one hears them leave. They arrive as myths. They vanish as nightmares. Across the galaxy, a new law is spoken, never written, never formalized. A warning, a plea, a final rule for all intelligent life. Do not anger the humans. Because if you do, there will be no one left to tell the story. They say the galaxy is vast. That there is always somewhere to hide. But the last survivors of the dominion of Krell, the remnants of the VHR, the shattered clans of the Vortha, they know the truth. There is no hiding from humans. Because humans don't conquer. They eradicate. The last great empire left standing was the HFY hegemony. The HFY were strategists, the oldest and most cunning of all the galactic powers. They had studied humans, analyzed their tactics, examined their brutality. And they had a plan. A world built for war. Fortress Prime. A planet-sized battle station, built from the remains of shattered worlds, surrounded by a ring of black hole defense satellites, each capable of tearing an armada apart. If humanity came, they would be ready. But humanity never attacked. They never sent a fleet. Never fired a single shot. One day, the HFY Grand Admirals simply stopped responding. The war councils went silent. The planetary shields remained up, the defenses still primed. But inside? Nothing. No distress calls. No cries for help. Just a planet filled with the dead. When the scavengers arrived years later, searching for answers, they found only one thing. A single phrase, burned into the capital city's walls, written in a language no HFY had ever spoken. We were here. It is said that in the deepest parts of the galaxy, there are abandoned planets. Worlds that once held thriving civilizations, now deserted. No sign of war. No sign of struggle. Just emptiness. And on each world, in the ruins of once great cities, there is always the same message, carved into stone, etched into metal, sometimes written in blood. We remember. No one knows what it means. No one is brave enough to find out. There are no records of where humans are now. No confirmed sightings. No known planets. Some say they still live on Earth, hidden away in a fortress of their own making. Others whisper that they left the galaxy entirely, moving beyond the stars, searching for something else to conquer. But the oldest races, those who survived, know the truth. Humans are not gone. They are watching. Waiting. And should the galaxy ever forget their lesson, should the new empires rise, should warlords once again dream of domination, then the darkness will whisper. The stars will go silent. And the message will return. We were here. The galaxy was quiet now. Not because there was peace, but because fear ruled in place of war. No species dared expand too quickly. No empire dared raise too large an army. The thought of conquest, once the ambition of all great civilizations, had become a death sentence. Because everyone remembered. They remembered what happened to those who angered the humans. At the edge of the galactic core, where the oldest ruins drifted among dead stars, lay Sector Black. No star charts marked it. No patrols dared enter it. It was a place of whispers and fear, a graveyard of a forgotten past. It was once the center of the greatest war in history. Now it was a void. Sensors detected nothing inside. No signals. No energy. No movement. But the few who ventured too close, reckless explorers, desperate smugglers, claimed they heard something. A voice. A low, steady heartbeat in the silence of space. Some said it was the ghosts of the fallen. Others believed it was just the wind of cosmic radiation, the echoes of shattered worlds. But those who listened too long? They never came back. For centuries, the galaxy held its breath. No sign of humans. No attacks. No whispers in the dark. Some began to doubt. Had humanity truly vanished? Had they burned so bright, so violently, that they had simply extinguished themselves? New civilizations began to rise. Slowly at first. Carefully. A war here. A conquest there. The old fear began to fade. And then, one day, a signal was received. Not a message. Not a demand. Just a set of coordinates. In Sector Black, the ruling empires of the galaxy gathered. Debated. Feared. Had they returned? Was this a trap? A warning? In the end, they made a decision. They would send a fleet. The largest fleet ever assembled in the new era. Not to attack, only to observe. To confirm, once and for all, whether the greatest terror in history still existed. They entered Sector Black. And found it empty. No planets. No debris. No life. Just a single station, floating in the void. A human station. No power. No transmissions. Abandoned for centuries. They boarded carefully, weapons primed, scanning every corner. And deep in the heart of the station, they found a single room, filled with ancient monitors, silent machines, long-forgotten human technology. At the center of the room was a chair. And in that chair sat a skeleton. The remains of a human, long dead, still clad in armor, still facing the screens before him. And in his bony grip, a small, simple data pad. One of the commanders picked it up, his hands shaking. He pressed the activation switch. A single message blinked to life. "You think it's over?" The screens in the room flashed on. A new signal burst from the station, echoing across the galaxy. Every ship, every world, every empire received it at the same time. It was not a message. It was a war declaration. Because humans had never left. They had only been waiting. The signal spread like wildfire. Every empire, every colony, every species, whether mighty or forgotten, heard the same message, echoing through the fabric of space. "You think it's over?" It was not a question. It was a promise. Panic swept across the ruling empires. The VHR heirs, those who had rebuilt after their ancestors fled the wrath of humans, immediately activated full mobilization protocols. They had sworn never to repeat history's mistakes. But they had grown complacent. The new Vortha clans, the warlike remnants of a once mighty race, had been preparing for this day in secret. Some saw this as a chance to correct their ancestors' failures. Others simply wanted to flee. The ZY and Carry, who had thought themselves the victors after humanity's supposed disappearance, quickly sealed their homeworlds behind impenetrable energy barriers. They did not wish to fight. They only wished to hide. But there was one problem. They did not know where to run. No fleets had arrived. No planets had been invaded. Just one signal. And then silence. It was worse than war. Because fear itself was the enemy now. In the following weeks, desperate fleets scoured Sector Black for answers. They found more abandoned stations. More dead signals. More lingering, ancient messages. Then one fleet, an elite task force from the Vortha Warborn Legion, discovered something new. A drifting human battleship. Intact. It had no energy readings. No active life signs. It had been left floating in space for centuries, hidden behind a veil of dark matter, invisible to sensors. The Vortha soldiers, battle-hardened and fearless, approached carefully. They entered through a breached hangar bay. Inside, they found no bodies. No human remains. No signs of battle. Just dust, decay, and emptiness. Then, in the command deck, they found a console still active. One of the soldiers, hesitating only slightly, reached out and activated it. A holographic message appeared. It was not human. It was VHR. An old recording, hundreds of years old, from a forgotten VHR scientist. The soldier's blood turned cold as the message played. If you are seeing this, then it means they are still out there. You do not understand. None of you ever understood. You think humans won through war. You think they survived through strength. But that is not their power. Their power is time. Patience. Adaptation. They do not need fleets. They do not need colonies. Because they became something else. Something beyond our comprehension. The recording glitched, static filling the room. Then the final words came through, barely a whisper. They are still evolving. And when they return, we will not be fighting humans anymore. The console shut down. The Vortha soldiers stood frozen. Then, from the depths of the warship, a sound echoed. A single footstep. Not metal. Not cybernetic. Something else. Something alive. The soldiers raised their weapons. But the lights went out. And the screaming began. Across the galaxy, similar reports began flooding in. Strange disappearances. Fleets vanishing without distress signals. Entire colonies going silent overnight, with no signs of attack. And always, the same eerie pattern. No bodies were ever found. The fear that had ruled the galaxy for centuries turned into full-blown terror. For the first time, the empires of the galaxy agreed on one thing. They had to find the humans. They had to end this before it was too late. Because something far worse than war was happening. Something had been waiting in the dark. And now? Now it was awake. On the edges of known space, in a backwater research station, a lone transmission was picked up. A distress call. Weak. Faint. Human. The voice was frantic. You don't understand. You think we disappeared. But we didn't. We changed. We had no home. No allies. No future. So we did what we've always done. We evolved. We became what the universe forced us to become. And now, a long pause. A deep, slow exhale. Then, the final words. Now you will know what it means to fear us. The signal cut out. And across the galaxy, in every sector, every world, every empire, a single new message appeared on every screen. 3 simple words. We are here.